Hello friends, welcome back. And if you're new here, if this is the first time you're seeing my face, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button. That way you can see all of my future content. And I would just love to have you along for the ride, and also for you to share in the comments your personal journey. It just warms my heart to kind of just interact with everyone and just to be able to meet new people. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I would appreciate if everyone can like the video. That way I can continue to grow my channel. So today is July 1st. So first and foremost, happy July to everyone. And because it is 4th of July weekend, definitely hope everyone has a safe and blessed weekend. So today is very monumental for me because it is the anniversary of me being 6 months on the carnivore way of eating. I don't like to call it the diet, the carnivore diet, because I'm trying to step away. Sometimes, of course, am I human? Yes, I do slip up and call it the carnivore diet. But I prefer to say that it is a way of eating, because truly this has become a lifestyle for me, and I truly have to change my mentality when it comes to the fad diet mentality. So I did start this way of eating July 1st of 2023. So obviously today hits the 6-month mark for that. And I'm going to go ahead and look down at some notes. This is definitely unscripted, unrehearsed. You are getting everything from the bottom of my heart, raw. But I definitely want to make sure that I'm not leaving out any key points, because I definitely feel that it is important, because I definitely want to be able to help and motivate and inspire others. And I feel it's really important to share every little bits and pieces throughout this journey thus far. That way, if anyone is going through any similar issues or symptoms, they can definitely feel that possibly this way of eating may assist them. So I am just an everyday person. So before you start any way of eating, definitely check with a healthcare professional. So I definitely want to add that disclaimer in here, because I'm definitely not your doctor, your nurse. So definitely get that kind of guidance to make sure that you are well prepared to take this approach. So initially, January 1st of 2023, I started first initially with an elimination. So I was previously, prior to January 1st of this year, I was previously doing a ketogenic way of eating. I was just about to hit my 4th year with the ketogenic way of eating. Unfortunately, I did have some issues with the ketogenic way of eating. I unfortunately started to get weight gain. I started noticing anxiety and depression that I was going through actually seemed to be very heavy mentally, very heavy on my heart. So it kind of felt like everything was more so elevating with the way of eating that I was doing, because I don't think anyone in life can get away from stress or anxiety prone situations. So I've definitely experienced stress and anxiety prior to my keto years, and I never felt the way that I felt, the pressure that I simply just felt. And aside from that, I did go through a 42-pound weight gain, still yet keeping to a ketogenic way of eating. So that was between, I want to say it was year 3 up until year 4. I gained a total of 42 pounds within a year. So initially, with the ketogenic way of eating, 15 months in, I was able to lose 101 pounds. So initially, it was amazing results. I was able to take off weight very rapidly. But then again, I want you all to understand, 42 pounds was gained out of that 101 pounds. So I did go through a whole year's worth of dealing with some symptoms that definitely probably the weight gain contributed to the symptoms that I was going through. So aside from the anxiety worsening, I also dealt with IBS. So I dealt with irritable bowel syndrome symptoms. I did have a lot of urgency to go number 2. And when I say urgency, it was to the point where I needed to find a restroom ASAP, which is not always possible. You know, whenever you go somewhere, sometimes, you know, they can have the restroom locked. You have to go to an attendant to get the key to be able to use the restroom. I was in situations where I could not deal with that obstacle of getting to a restroom and finding out that it's locked or that it was being serviced for cleaning. No, when I got that urgency, it was immediate. I had to go right then and right there. So due to that, it did cause me to somewhat be a prisoner to my house. I literally felt like I was on house arrest going through those type of symptoms. It got to the point because I did not want to leave the house. I felt so uncomfortable that my husband, he was having to video chat with me as he was at the grocery store. That way, aisle to aisle, I was able to let him know what items we possibly needed for what I was going to cook that given week. And that is how I had to live my life. So I hardly went out because I just felt so uncomfortable, so uneasy. So I am happy to report that part of my NonSkill victories with the carnivore way of eating, I do not have any irritable bowel syndrome, any IBS symptoms at all. So this entire 6 months, I have not had any issues. I will say the first few days into this way of eating, I definitely did go through an adjustment period, but it was only initially for the first, I want to say 3 to 4 days. I did go through what I felt like was a detox. I do not have a gallbladder, so that also possibly contributed to that additional fat being reintroduced for my body to go through an adjustment period. I do want to let you all know that this does not happen to everyone. Some are able to start a carnivore way of eating and they do not experience any sort of bathroom urgencies in the initial period. And still yet they're months on in and still yet they don't go through that transition period. So don't feel like you're going to have the same situation like me when it came to those initial first few days of going through a clean out period. So throughout the first 60 days, I also dealt with having symptoms of a heel spur in both heels. So I had it in my right and my left heel. It was very substantial on my right side. So that also caused me a lot of limited mobility because if I put any sort of pressure down on my right foot, it was extremely painful. It was a pain that was just a sharp shooting pain that radiated all throughout my right side. So I am talking about from my foot, from my heel, all the way throughout my leg, my thigh, my hip, everything on the right side was extremely painful. And shockingly, within the 3rd week of starting a carnivore way of eating, the pain was just instantly gone. As if literally someone took away that heel spur, it was completely gone. So was the heel spur completely healed? Absolutely not. You know, it's definitely not going to be fully healed in 3 weeks' time. But did the pain alleviate? Absolutely. I went from having limited mobility and hopping around with that right foot to being able to put full on pressure without any issues at all, starting that first initial third week of doing a carnivore way of eating. When it came to any of the other pains that attributed was the lower back pain, the thigh pain, I did not have any of those pains, any of those issues. There were no supplements that I was taking. So it definitely was simply just the way of eating, switching to carnivore, that I truly feel like it completely healed the pain that I was going through. When it came to any sort of inflammation, I definitely noticed the reduction in inflammation all around, even when it came to my wrist. So I'm going to show you all my Fitbit watch. If you can see, it is extremely loose. So this is initially when I first started in January. This is what my Fitbit prong was set at. I can definitely tell you all that this is, as you can see, moving all around. I completely have full control to move it around my wrist, but that is the prong that it was set on. So as you can see, most definitely when it comes in terms of inches being lost as well as inflammation, my wrist even is definitely full on example. Now let me show you all. After 60 days of triple B&E doing beef, butter, bacon, and egg, I was able to go up 3 prongs. So let's go ahead and put it up to 3 prongs. There was only 1 prong remaining here. And this is what I was at when it came to 60 days in. As you can see, I'm still able to comfortably move it. There's still a little bit of space. So this is currently what I have the watch set at. To be a little bit more comfortable, I definitely need to switch from this large band to what they consider their small band, but that is full on example. It cannot get any better than that when it comes to another NonSkill Victory. And speaking on behalf of just the changes of my body, so I definitely have noticed when it came to my body's composition, when it came to the recomposition of my body, I have definitely noticed with the carnivore way of eating, it definitely is contributing to a better sculpting than I experienced with the ketogenic way of eating. So even when I initially lost 101 pounds doing ketogenic way of eating, I did not have as much definition being gained as I've had with this carnivore way of eating. So because I have that benefit of being able to do a comparison between the two, I can definitely say that looking back at any of my photos when I had lost that initial 101 pounds with the ketogenic way of eating, I still kind of little bit looked like I was retaining some inflammation. But with the carnivore way of eating, I literally feel like my stomach is literally caving in. That is how much composition I have seen and I have gained with this way of eating. When it came to anything as far as craving wise, I have not had any cravings for anything off plan. Am I someone that is perfect? Absolutely not. I like to consider myself perfectly imperfect. But when it comes to my way of eating and when it comes to my goals, when it comes to feeling just amazing, I have not gone off plan at all. To me, it is not worth it for me to succumb to anything that would be considered the standard American diet. This is not a bash on anyone that possibly does, but I will definitely say I also had to go through mental health healing. I did have to go through professional help. So I will encourage anyone that if you feel like you are addicted to anything that is part of the standard American diet, if you feel like you are constantly succumbing to standard American diet type of foods, carbs, whatever it may be, sugar, definitely try to seek professional help for that. It will definitely set you up to be more successful when you take an approach, whether it is going ketogenic, ketovore, or even carnivore. Definitely do not feel bad about getting mental health therapy. There are so many resources available where you don't even have to leave your house. You can do it as a telehealth type of visit. That is actually what I had done when I had went through mental health therapy sessions, and it made the world of difference to be able to not only go on this better health journey when it came to being able to have my body physically healthy. The mental health component of it is so absolutely important. So I definitely encourage everyone to make sure that approaching this, you are definitely going into it with a good bill of health when it comes to your mental health. I truly feel like that is kind of what causes some that I have interacted with to succumb to foods that are not beneficial to us. Can there be moments where someone eats something off plan and it has no connection to anything mental or emotional? Absolutely. But if you are someone that is able to make that decision to eat something off plan and to quickly just go off onto the plan again, most definitely you are capable of taking that accountability and making that quick shift again. But if it's getting to the point where, say in a given month, if you are repeatedly going off plan, yes, there is definitely more to that. You are definitely trying to fill a void. I totally get it. I totally understand. So definitely seek some help if need be. I know it's sometimes hard to self-identify, but sometimes we have to kind of look at things from that backseat point of view and kind of just self-evaluate and to go from there. So when it comes to my reintroduction, so I did make sure that with my triple B and E, my beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, after that 60 days, I did make sure to do my reintroduction in the appropriate way. I didn't go willy-nilly right into just binging on whatever I wanted. I definitely wanted to benefit from the elimination that I was doing for 60 days. So I initially first started adding spices. So the spices, I did add that in month number 3. So I actually did wait a whole entire month after the elimination diet before I started introducing spices, and I did go about it one ingredient at a time. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that if you had anything that was hindering you, if you were on a weight loss stall, if you basically had anything going on symptom-wise, definitely give yourself that benefit of seeing, possibly do your experimenting of seeing what possibly might have hindered you. The only way you're going to find that out is if you're going to do an approach of one item, one ingredient at a time. So far I've simply introduced spices. It is very limited as far as the spices that I have introduced. For the most part, I just use Redmond salt as well as garlic powder. Those are generally my go-to spices. And I also introduced cheese. So I did have a period of time where I was admitted in the hospital in the month of May. So because they were very limited as far as when it came to fatty cuts of meat they had, I had to get creative. Thankfully, they had real cheese, so I was able to benefit getting a little bit of fat in with the cheddar cheese that they offered. So in month 4 of doing this way of eating was when I reintroduced dairy. I am very limited with my dairy though. So I will say I have not had any symptoms, any irritations when it came to the reintroduction of dairy, but I only do 1 ounce if I'm going to do 2 MAD, if I'm going to do 2 meals a day. And if I know if I'm going to have dairy for both of the meals, it's only 1 ounce for each meal. And if I'm doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, I do give myself that 2 ounce allowance. Do I really reach it? Not really. When I go to measure, it's simply probably like 1.4 ounces or 1.5. So I do not go crazy when it comes to the dairy. And that is something I do absolutely track because I don't want to go crazy with it. And I also don't want it to stall my better health goals. So I'm going to go ahead and share some pictures with you all throughout the months since I've started this carnivore way of eating. I do not necessarily have a number to share with you all in terms of the scale, because that is another thing that I've had to heal is my relationship with the scale. Throughout my ketogenic way of eating for 4 years, I was very much addicted to the scale. I allowed the scale to depreciate me. I allowed the scale to truly get into my head as if it was the tell-all be-all, which it is most definitely not. So I can share that when I first initially started the ketogenic way of eating, January of 2019, I was 283 pounds. So when I did visit the hospital, I did have that admitted stay in the hospital. I can tell you from what they weighed me at, I was at an over 80-pound weight loss currently. So that is really exciting to me because that shows that out of that 42 pounds that I had gained, I am simply only about 20 pounds away from being at 101 weight loss again. So that is something I can definitely share with you all. And it is also the reason being why I do not make my videos all about the drop on the scale, is because the scale can be very deceptive. Not everyone is going to have quick, fast results when it comes to the movement on the scale. There are so many factors that attribute to why the scale is dropping rapidly for some and not for others. It does not mean that you are not doing a good job. It does not mean that you are not having any results at all, because in all honesty, my NonSkill victories will always positively supersede anything the scale can ever show me. So I definitely still have the continued healing of my mental health when it comes to my NonSkill victories. I went through that stay that I went through at the hospital, and it could have been a very stressful period of time for me. It could have been very anxiety driven. I will say that this carnivore of eating, the neurology team definitely had mentioned that having exceptional bill of health definitely helped my situation, because if I was not in a healthy matter of state, I definitely could have gone through a lot of things when my health took simply a turn for the worst. And they truly felt like my clean eating allowed my body to be able to signal and to finally be able to reveal to me that there were some underlying health issues that I was going through prior to this carnivore way of eating. My blood work at the hospital was amazing. They were simply shocked at the hospital for how amazing and how great my blood work was. So that included a lot of different things as far as my glucose, my HbA1c, cholesterol, you name it. They did a full-on panel of my blood work. So they were shocked and amazed. And I even have a video of my hospital post-visit information. So you will all see in there in my discharge paperwork, they definitely made sure to put on there for me to continue with the way of eating that I am currently doing, because they were just so shocked and amazed. And not many people get that when they tell a healthcare professional that they are doing carnivore way of eating, or even ketogenic for that matter. They are not getting that response. So I can definitely tell you, between the doctors as well as the neurology team, they were ecstatic and overjoyed for this way of eating that I'm doing. When it came to female wise, so I'm going to definitely touch on this. I did have some irregular cycles. So my cycles were irregular prior to the ketogenic way of eating. During the ketogenic way of eating, they slightly improved to the point where instead of having missed cycles here and there throughout some months, I did consistently get a cycle every single month doing the ketogenic way of eating, but it was very sporadic. It did not have any consistency as far as what week in the month it came. So there was times where it was extremely early, where it was extremely late. So it was a lot of tracking that I had to do on my part when I was doing the ketogenic way of eating. When I switched to the carnivore way of eating, I could definitely tell you, come month number 3, I was so consistent when it came to having my cycle. And currently right now, 6 months in, I am at the point where my menstrual cycle is coming any day within the week that it is expected. So I track everything when it comes to my menstrual cycle, and I can definitely tell you, it is only at the point where it possibly might come 1 or 2 days early, but I've never had a late cycle when it comes to the carnivore way of eating. My cycle always comes early. It's always coming on time as far as being able to predict the week that it's coming. So that is a complete drastic improvement, because I'm sure any of my female warriors out there that deal with monthly cycles can definitely agree. Going from complete unpredictability to at least being able to predict the week that it's going to come in is definitely a huge victory, because we can definitely plan special outings or any special events around that time period. It definitely makes it so much easier, and it just definitely gives you that peace of mind as a woman. So the pictures that I'm going to share, I'm going to do them in pairs of 2. So the first 2 pictures that I'm going to share is my day 1 of Triple B and E versus my 60th day of doing a carnivore way of eating. So I'm sure you can see that there is definitely a substantial recomposition when it comes to my abdomen region. I definitely noticed there was a lot less inflammation and thickness for my thighs. The second 2 pictures I'm going to share is my 90th day with the carnivore way of eating and my 6 months. So I want to say that this would be the most drastic when it comes to sharing simply a before and after, and that is simply comparison of day 90 and 6 months in this morning. I definitely have noticed that when it comes to my hips, my abdomen, my thighs, even my back, I have noticed complete and utter fat loss. It has simply just eliminated a lot of fat because I am now seeing that there are so much recompositioning. There is just so much changes when it comes to the definition in my body. And I'm hoping that you can definitely see that with the photos. That has been the best measure for me. Then the scale will ever be is the before and after photos that I have been tracking and taking. So I definitely encourage anyone to definitely do the same. Do not only solely rely on the scale as your data. Definitely take pictures. Definitely, if you want to go a step further and take tape measurements, definitely do that. Do not just rely on the scale only, because it will depreciate you if you allow it to. So the last set of pictures is my back region. So this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the complete fat loss when it comes to my back region. So the first picture you're going to see is day 1 of triple BNE in comparison to this morning, 6 months of the carnivore way of eating. So as you can see, my fat ripples have definitely changed substantially. I do not have the wideness to my back with that inflammation like I have in that day 1 picture. So my wideness as far as my body has simply sculpted, and it is showing a lot more definition than I had shown on day 1 of this way of eating. As far as my future plans, I'm definitely planning on continuing with the carnivore way of eating. I'm going to still stay with my limited spices that I've so far introduced. I really don't feel a need right now to reintroduce any additional spices. I'm simply happy with what I've incorporated already that has not caused me any hindrance or any irritations. I am definitely going to still stick with some dairy. I'm going to keep it very limited. Do I possibly have plans in the future of having periods of time where I go without dairy? Absolutely. You know, I am always about doing what you feel is best. If you feel like anything is causing you a hindrance or a stall with your better health goals, definitely switch things up if need be. But currently right now, my body is continuously responding, so I don't feel a need for change just as of yet. I'm just going to simply keep on keeping on with what I'm currently doing. And I do possibly have some intention of reintroducing coffee. So when it comes to coffee, I know some already incorporate it in their carnivore way of eating. They allow themselves at least one experience per day. I possibly might go the route. I absolutely always loved it iced. I'm kind of hot. So I definitely want to be able to reincorporate it and see how my body responds. I am possibly going to do a reintroduction in September, so definitely stay tuned for that. So I just want to go ahead and wrap up this video so it is not forever long. I hope anyone that is thinking or has been contemplating a carnivore way of eating, I hope this gives you some insight. I hope it can serve as motivation and encouragement for someone that has simply been doing it for 6 months and never thought they would be doing this way of eating for a whole period of 6 months, and to simply continue on with it. I want to thank you all for watching. As always, I appreciate you all. Take care, friends.